gentlemen, we've got a great episode today. We have got Dr. Benji Tehrani. He is an expert with Kings Point Foot and Ankle, and we're going to dig into all his stories about going from Texas all the way out to one of the top surgeons in Beverly Hills. Benji, how's it going?
Good, man. Thank you for having me.
No, thanks for coming on. Really appreciate you. I know time is a valuable commodity for you doctors. Do you want to just share a little bit about yourself, high level, and then we'll dig into the history and background?
Sure. I'm Dr. Benjamin Tehrani. I've been practicing for 10 years now. Honestly, feels like 3 or 4 years, but it's been a long time, and the years are starting to mix together. Grew up in Texas, grew up in Dallas, Texas. Went to medical school in Philadelphia at Temple. Froze my butt off over there, and then decided to...
Very different here.
Yeah. I went out to the desert in Phoenix, and I trained 3 years at the county hospital. And then I moved back to Texas and realized that I didn't want to practice here. I wanted to be by the water. And then I met my wife, and I moved to LA, and I've been there ever since.
All right. So a lot to unravel. Let's start with what made you initially get into medicine?
Yeah, my mom's a diabetic. So she has what's called diabetic neuropathy. It's like a nerve disorder where it causes numbness, tingling, pain. And so I just basically... Let me back up. I always wanted to be a doctor. I come from a family of surgeons. My dad has 8 brothers. 6 of the brothers are doctors.
Good Persian family.
Yeah, right? That's how it works, right?
Yeah, I know.
So I made the decision to go into podiatry because my mom was having some lower extremity issues, and I used to visit her podiatrist in Dallas, and I liked what they did. One day we do sports medicine, and then another day we'll diagnose cancer.
So it's a lot of variety then.
Very, very high variety of different problems. Okay. Yeah. So, and then, I'm just, I love doing it, man. It keeps people on their feet, keep them moving, allows them to get back into the gym. People that thought they wouldn't be able to walk anymore because they have like some sort of a gait abnormality. We make them inserts, and then they're, back on their feet again.
So you can make a real difference in people's lives, because if you can't walk, then that's a huge ailment in life.
Well, especially for LA, people are really active, man. There's hikers, there's runners. Not with this weather recently, but in general, people like to go running and they like to be outdoors in LA.
Well, why not? The weather's perfect. So it'd be crazy not to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so you got into medicine, big family background, mom had issues, kind of picked your specialty just from seeing her ailments, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And then you moved away and you kind of explored a little bit, right?
I needed to be by myself, man. Yeah. I needed to get away because in the Persian community, we're very close to them, kind of like very similar to the Indian families. Yep. We're always just wherever they are. Like my uncle lived across the street, for God's sakes. Like
always back and forth.
Yeah. So I was trying to find a way to get out and really find myself. And so
create your own identity.
Yeah. Right? And I was struggling with that being an Iranian living in Texas. Like I was like, what am I? It's hard for me. So for me to live out by myself in Philadelphia in a new environment, it was really refreshing for me. And it really showed me that like living on your own, expressing things on your own allows you to grow and kind of realize what it is that you want to go after and how you want to practice medicine.
See, that's a really good lesson, because a lot of when I had the same thing moving from England to here, being on my own, trying something new, culture, everything, it gave me time to really be by myself as well. And enjoy being with myself. Like having my own company was really good, and it helped me reset and focus my mind. So I didn't necessarily always have to be around other people.
Right.
How did you figure that out? Because at that point you were around family all the time, lots of people, to then medical school in a different city and it's freezing cold. How did you adapt to that?
Well, let's be honest. Like when you're in medical school, you're so busy that you don't really have a whole lot of time to really think about what it is that you're doing until you're there and living in the moment. It's kind of hard to make that adjustment until like you realize that like, hey, I'm actually in this city by myself and I don't know anybody. So it kind of forces you out of your comfort zone to go out and make new friends and like to be social.
You've got a class or a cohort that are all in that pool together.
Yeah. And so like in a sense, you're doing it with others, but you kind of have to create your own group of new friends. And from there, I've learned a lot about myself. I've learned that I'm actually more independent than I initially thought I was. I was most friendliest in high school. So like I knew I didn't have a problem making new friends, but it was refreshing to me. And I think it's important for anyone, starting their own practice, or even not even in medicine, if they're in law or business school, to get out there and really expand or get out of their comfort zone. You know?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point, and we can segue into starting your own practice because you started from scratch, from zero, straight out of medical school. So that is really difficult. It's probably one of the most difficult things anyone could do. Is you're not trained in business or entrepreneurship. You're trained in becoming a specialist in fixing foot problems. What do you know about starting a business? They don't really teach that in medical school. No. So let's kind of rewind the clock a little bit, because now obviously you've got a lot of great celebrity, A-list clients, royalty, and globally like a lot of elites. But let's rewind the clock to when you first started your practice. How was firstly that decision to go full-time and back yourself versus in somebody else's practice and being a W-2 employee?
Yeah, that's a very difficult path to go down, Casey, because not everyone, especially in this day and age, feels like that's the right path for them. If you look up there's some literature, not literature, but there's a lot of ratings that are coming out where people, like 1 in 4 podiatrists are actually in private practice. Everyone is going against that. They're joining, super groups, or joining hospitals. For me, in 2016, when I started on my own, I knew this was going to be my journey, regardless of if I failed or if I succeeded. I knew I had to kind of turn that leaf over and see what's out there for me. So it's definitely scary, because you can easily have the Kaisers that'll give you a nice salary, and
especially with medicine, right? Because you're coming out with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, but you're going to pick up. Arguably, you're going to pick up a really big check every year from a company, let's just use Kaiser, where you could make multiple hundreds of thousands and work your way up from that.
Correct.
Versus starting at zero, it's a huge risk reward. And obviously everything in life, the bigger the risk you take, the bigger the reward you get.
That's exactly right.
But on the flip side, it's all this debt hanging over you. You've got a family to feed, or significant others to help out, or whatever that is for each person's scenario. Yeah. I can see why most people would take that safer, not easier, but safer route of just picking up a check.
Yeah, but at the same time, though, you will never know unless you go out and try it. You really have to challenge yourself. And if it doesn't work, you can always pivot and go back to it. I mean, I know 2 or 3 podiatrists in the past couple of years that I've consulted with, just to let them know, because they're in the same boat. Like, what do I do? What I did was I actually got 1099 jobs, like 2 or 3 different ones, while I was growing my own practice.
So multiple part-time jobs at the same time as growing. So now you're not fully dependent on your marketing sales machine running.
Exactly.
But you can supplement the income. And that's probably the equivalent of having a side hustle, as people would say, where they've got one main gig that's bringing in the bulk of money, but then they've got 2 or 3 other sources of income to help supplement things and not be totally at risk. With just one avenue.
Yeah, and you can play, it's kind of a game, because as you notice that the practice is getting a little bit busier, you can let one of the jobs go, or if your practice is getting busier, you can find a PA or nurse practitioner. Yeah, they can come in and they fill in days for me while I still go to the other clinics.
So let's break that down, because there's 2 things that you said that's really valuable there. One is the balancing act between the side gigs or the supplementary income and the main gig. Because there's always going to be one thing that's making you the most amount of money. Right. And then the other things, whether that's products, additional services, after hours, whatever those are, you can feed that into the whole overall picture and grow that. And then the balancing act is between them, right? If this one is 80% and the others are 20, well, if they start rising up, the 80 might go down to 70 and so on, right? So there's always that yin and yang balancing act. The second thing is actually really important too, is that if you can buy back your time and delegate to a team member, that's really where you start to scale, because now you can replicate yourself, maybe not 100%, but maybe 80%. Right. But it allows you to then get more of those streams of income more efficiently than if it had to be you everywhere.
That's correct.
So how do you do that in the medical sense? Because in business, it's pretty straightforward. You can hire operations manager, marketing manager, sales manager, a VA, whatever you do. But as a doctor, it's so much more difficult. How do you go about kind of thinking through those processes?
I don't think it's that difficult. I think the most important thing to do, and this is where I struggled a lot, was looking at your numbers and understanding what your numbers mean. I went to a conference by, there's a guy named Keith Cunningham that works with Tony Robbins. Yeah. And I went to the 4-day MBA, and what he teaches you is to look at your Excel sheets on a monthly basis and be able to make better business decisions.
100%,
right?
Yeah.
So now I break it down per location to see how much net income I'm making and whether or not, 1/3 or 1/4 of that net income I could put towards another podiatrist or put towards a nurse practitioner to come in. And so the minute I started looking at those numbers and making those type of business decisions, that's when I started to scale.
Okay, so let's break that down because ultimately the key fundamental of what you're saying applies to any business. It's do your financial reviews. Make sure your bookkeeping's done so you can do a month-end close. Once your month-end close is done, make sure you're reviewing the performance of that. Where did the money come in from? Which avenue or which activity created the income? Control the expenses. Where are most of the expenses going? What's the net profit?
Correct.
What's the cash flow of that net profit? And how can you reallocate it towards growth? So if you chop it up into quarters or into thirds, how much are you reallocating into the business for the business to grow and keep that machine perpetuating?
It's not easy, let me tell you, but I think you're exactly right. I think when I started actually looking at it, I would block off. I still have admin time every Monday, but I literally block off time where I put my phone on airplane mode and I have my bookkeeper give my financial reports the first Tuesday of every month. And then I'll sit down for a good 2-3 hours and just, Keith calls it thinking time, right? I'll get a pen and paper.
You definitely need thinking time.
Yeah, I start writing down forget like the whole marketing thing. I'm writing down what are my obstacles? Like what am I forgetting? What am I missing? What's my stopgap that's impeding my practice from growing?
Another good point there. You keep dropping all these great nuggets, and it's to block out time to review that. And you need that in all departments, not just finance and accounting, but you need to block out the time to review performance, whether that's your own performance on the surgery you just performed, whether that's the staff's performance, whether that's marketing, sales, accounting, because it all leads in, it's all connected,
Absolutely.
right? So if you're taking 2 hours a month to review your numbers and see, okay, well, this type of procedure is working really well and we're making a lot of money from that versus this product isn't really doing well, or maybe the inserts aren't doing so well. Where do we want to focus and allocate our time? And it's not just one metric of revenue. It's got to be the net profit as well, because you can make all the money in one place, but if that product is a loss leader,
it's interesting that when I was, even before podiatry school, the doctors that I met in Dallas, he always told me, it was like, oh, Ben, surgery is a waste of time. Like, what are you doing? Don't ever worry about surgery. Just see patients. And he had 5 associates in his practice. And, obviously, I wanted to be a surgeon. I want to cut this and that. And now that I'm older, I've been practicing for a while now, and I look at it, and time allocation is of the utmost importance, because if I'm seeing, for example, an HMO patient or like a Medi-Cal patient, and I do 3 or 4 procedures on their foot, I may make $700-800. But if in that,
for the full thing,
and that will take a half day out of my time slot, right? But in that half day, if I saw 20 patients and 2 of them elected to do laser therapy, which is a cash business, it's $1,200 for toenail fungus lasers, a package. If I just see 1 or 2 of those, I just made more money than if I were to take on all this risk and do surgeries. And then you're on the hook. God forbid something happens to them for 90 days. You're on the hook and you don't get paid for 90 days.
So the cash flow impact is big too.
So
not only is it profit, revenue, and cash flow, and time, and risk.
It's everything.
The doctor was right.
Yeah.
Why do it?
There's some brilliant, I'm still learning. I know for orthopedic surgeons and podiatrists that will go all over the country. They'll go LA to Beverly Hills, and they know their numbers so well that they know, okay, if I'm doing 3 or 4 of this insurance's PPO, and I'm doing a bunion, for example. Let's just use a bunion, which is a little bump on their foot. If they do 2 or 3 of those surgeries, they'll net probably $2,500 because it's a really good insurance, right? So understanding your numbers, where your money's coming from, what percentage of your practice is PPO versus Medicare versus Medi-Cal versus cash, all that is critical.
It's so crazy. Firstly, that applies to all businesses, right? We're just using the foot doctor business right now,
Yeah.
but the same applies to my tax business, my self-storage business, my real estate, like any business. It's the same fundamental principles of knowing what your numbers are.
Right.
What really upsets me about the healthcare industry here is I don't know any other place where I can go get a procedure or something done and not know how much that's going to cost me before I choose to do it. And I grew up in England, right? So it's very different there. NHS covers all of that. So there's
Right.
no costs.
Right.
But even if there was a cost, I just fundamentally think it's wrong the way the system is built that they don't tell people what that is up front.
Yeah. No,
And
we don't know. I mean,
Scary though,
it's
right? It's
even,
like,
I mean, I have staff that's
So corrupt.
overseas that's only purpose is to get authorizations and to figure out like how much money they'll have to owe. And let me tell you, 95% of patients, this was me before, like I was in school, I had no idea what like a deductible was, co-insurance, like how that applied.
I'm
like,
learning all of this as I go. And
out
it
of
was like,
pocket? What the hell is that?
what is this? Yeah, I was so astounded. I was like, okay. When I first moved here, obviously I was working for Flowserve, a big corporate company, and they had a good healthcare system. I had no idea if it was good, bad, or indifferent.
Yeah.
But it was like, wow, I'm paying all this money every month in healthcare. And then I still go to the doctor and I still have to cough up 50 bucks or 100 bucks. It's like, what is going on?
If you haven't made your
And then you don't
deductible-
tell me how much I'm supposed to be paying until I'm checking out and I've got a
Correct.
couple of $1,000 bill. I'm like, what is going on? I
That's
can
right.
really see why people here get very upset about it and why
Yeah,
it's
we're just-
always a contentious issue.
Dude, we're just cogs. Like we're in the game too. Like we're playing that game too. We have
And
no
that's
other
true,
choice.
right? That's like, if you peel the onion back, it's the big pharma companies and the big hospitals that control the governments that do all this lobbyist stuff that totally corrupts how the whole system works for their advantage on net profit.
And kudos to the doctors that are completely out of network. It's a very difficult game to do. I don't do that. I'm in network with almost all insurances, but there's a few insurances I don't take. And if the patient wants me to do the surgery, it's out of pocket. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of surgeons that are just like, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out of network. I mean, we'll work with your insurance, but they got to pay the out of network rates.
Yeah, one of my closest friends that I smoke cigars with all the time is one of the top spinal surgeons in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, yeah, I don't do that. Everyone pays me cash.
Yeah.
And and that's okay with higher net worth people, right?
Right.
Because they have the cash and it's disposable.
Right.
But for the average person that's living paycheck to paycheck, they cannot afford a $90,000 surgery.
No.
But you need it essentially because if your back's jacked up or your foot's jacked up,
what are you going to do?
you have to do it, right?
Yeah.
So
I think a nugget for me was like learning what like cash pay businesses you can do or cash pay services you can provide for patients.
What do you mean? Give us an example.
Like in my office, I'll do fillers, like fat fillers in areas that are really sensitive.
So what's a fat filler?
So it's called a adipose tissue allograft. So it's basically
In English, please.
It's it's basically a fat graft. It's almost like a filler, like when people do Juvederm.
You take fat off their body or
No,
something?
it's sterilized. They check it for all the diseases, but they basically harvest it and they make sure the fat.
They grow it in a plant, or it's
Yeah. They have a facility where they take it from adipose tissue.
So it's like grown
It's
something
literally
in a greenhouse type thing.
Yeah, but it's obviously processed.
Yeah, obviously to the FDA grade.
And we'll use that. That's a cash generated business, and that's $1,500.
So, like you said, that's the equivalent of doing lip fillers, but on your feet.
Yeah, and we'll do that all day long if that patient needs it.
And what would be who would be the type of person that's coming or needing something like that?
So people that are, for example, dancers, people that are sales rep. People that are sales rep. I had one yesterday. She's a sales rep and she always wears stilettos every day. And one was a real estate agent and wears high heels every day. And they basically walk on the ball of their feet. And
it wears it down.
Oh, it wears down the fat pad that they already have.
Naturally. Yeah.
And so we do one of these injections and it'll give her probably 4 to 6 months of relief. And they're like, I don't even have to think about my foot. Thank you so much. And they just come in 2-3 times a year.
Got it. Yeah. So like similar to when you made my golf inserts, right?
Yes.
It's like when I'm golfing, I'm on my feet. The pressure needs to be even. So this kind of helps stability then.
Yeah, we created what's called a metatarsal pad. So on the bottom part where you're placing the pads, what does a golf coach say? Like put your feet flat on the ground and you literally pivot. So while you're pivoting, it's not really helping you with your swing, but it's allowing you to take the pressure off of your feet.
Yeah, you just got to steady your base, right? So you're not arching any one way.
Exactly. So just things like that, coming back to the whole business side of it, just, it's okay if you're not at a network, but you just have to think outside the box. What else can I be doing that can generate cash for the business where I'm making $4,000 or $5,000 a day? So my gross is 1.2 million a year. Like, how do I get there?
Reverse engineer it back down to components.
That's what I do. What's my per day? How much do I need to be making if I'm working 20 days a month to get to that $1.2 million, for example?
Whatever your goal is, reverse engineer it by the number of days you want to work.
Exactly.
And you got your daily target.
Yep.
So in your practice, it's pretty unique, right? You're really advanced in what you do and arguably the best in Beverly Hills, if not the world, right?
Thank you.
But you take a very progressive approach, which is really one thing I love about you and admire a lot is you're always proactive rather than reactive.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously I know it comes from your childhood and stuff, but share a little bit more about that curiosity and always thinking differently. You even mentioned it a second ago. You said thinking outside the box.
Yeah.
How do you take that attribute? Because a lot of people have that good skill set, but they don't know how to apply it to the business. How have you went about that transition of, hey, yeah, I am a little bit creative. I can think outside the box, but I'm a specialist in foot. How do I apply that?
It's interesting. Before we got on the podcast, I was talking about how I love doing, I wanted to become a music producer, right? So video production, music production. I've always had that like fine arts, creativity aspect. And so for me, I just sit down and I brainstorm, once a month, like things that I could be doing differently that is not necessarily completely outside the box in podiatry. Like I want to stay within FDA guidelines, but you want to be thinking like what is it that I can be providing to patients that other podiatrists that are working for hospitals, they can't because they have that red tape, what I mean? And they can't really provide those services. So that's where I do some things that aren't FDA approved, but I always make sure that we talk about it with the patients. Like we'll use lip fillers for areas that are really sensitive and they're painful. I talked about the fat graft, custom inserts. Everyone really does. That doesn't really count, but I have an infrared laser. Infrared laser is amazing. It helps increase oxygen, blood flow. It's great for fractures. It's great for wounds. It doesn't hurt. It's this big purple robot that shoots the light and it doesn't generate heat. And so the patient just lays there. And basically, we're able to treat tendonitis, wounds, fractures, ligament tears, sprains, and they get better. And so just thinking what else is there in the arena that I can offer to the world that other people aren't really doing. Like I place patients on collagen peptides. We'll have them supplement with collagen gummies if they're having nail issues. We'll make sure that they're on like a B complex vitamin. Things like that.
So you're more of a holistic approach, right?
I call it integrative podiatrist. Yeah, holistic podiatrist. Something where, patients know that by the time they leave my office, they'll have like a laundry list of things that I want them to buy, even off Amazon. That's more about getting the body to respond better to pain. Getting the body to basically decrease inflammation naturally without giving them all these medications and drugs. Because if I give you pain medication, it's going to help you with your pain, but long-term, it can give you liver side effects. You can become addicted.
It's so funny you should say that because when I first moved here, you'd watch all these advertisements on TV about this drug, but the side effects and the consequences just went on twice as long.
Yeah.
Or it's just in super fast speak and it's like, this may cause death. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah. But they'll play it with like jazz music in the background, so it's not as bad.
So it's like soothing death.
Yeah, and while you die, there's some good music.
Astounding. So
it's not funny, but it's true. It's very true. There's a lot. Actually, you see it every day. Every single day.
It's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So no, I'm glad you take that approach and that you found a way to do it with your niche, because I think that's a trick a lot of people miss, is that how can I add different verticals in, look outside of the box pretty much, and increased streams of revenue, because ultimately the average millionaire has 7 streams of income.
I did not know that.
And it's like, okay, it doesn't all have to be a home run. You can hit singles along the way.
Yeah. I think it's better to do hit singles than doubles, man. You know, because for me, I created a company called Nervousist. So the gel and the vitamins, and you know, it's not knocking out of the park, but it's another avenue where, you know, I sell the product on Amazon. I'll have friends and family buy it, you know, and it's all medicinal, holistic. There's no drugs in it. And so it gives other people an option where if they have chronic pain issues, they can take that medication or take the supplement.
Sensitive to things.
Yeah. Or if they're sensitive to different medications, they have allergies. It's something very similar that aligns with the way I want to be able to practice.
Yeah. I'm the same. Like, I'm allergic to soy.
Oh, wow.
Soy's in everything, and it just makes me break out like I have eczema. So it's like, I always look and it's like, should I risk it? Should I do it? And sometimes it's like, I'm going with it.
Your skin looks good, man. You must be on those collagen peptides.
Well, that's a really good segue, because I wanted to talk to you about peptides. I've recently started a full regime with a doctor that's stem cells, peptides, longevity. And we go through this extensive process. She's called Dr. Joy Kong.
I know her.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Amazing.
She's fantastic. Yeah. Right. So one of my mentors, he's been seeing her for years. He was like, amazing. You have to see her. So we had lunch the other day, and then such a great program, right? So she takes the blood, she does the analysis, designs it specifically for you. Mm-hmm. And that's really what I love. It's like, okay, now I'm getting a custom made glove. This is not off the rack.
Oh, wow.
So the peptides that I'll be on shortly are going to be specific to what my body needs to increase my longevity. So that's...
Is it longevity peptides? Like
that's what I'm going for. So
Interesting.
there's a whole menu of stuff going on here.
Yeah.
So when you said collagen peptides, I'm like, yeah, well, I'd take collagen in my coffee. I do all this stuff because I've been researching Dr. Sinclair over at Harvard. And
David.
He's amazing. He just blows my mind. So it's like, I want to be able to live longer, but not just longer, but be healthier as I age.
Good job. Yeah.
I'm starting now, right?
Yeah.
So it's like,
if I would make a recommendation, if I could, I highly recommend Ben Greenfield. He is on Spotify, and I honestly, every night for like 20, 30 minutes before I go to bed, I'll just jump on one of his podcasts, and he talks about all of this. And for the past 90 days, I've been doing it, and he's really transformed the way I think about health and longevity. And it's really helped me.
What are some of the things you're doing?
Infrared light, I do that every night. I bought blue light blocking glasses. I meditate now.
I've got the filter on.
There you go. So I got the Headspace app. I meditate, 10 minutes a day.
And and you're a father, you're a husband,
you got a lot of stuff
business, multiple business owners. So you got a lot going on, and you're still making time for this. So you're prioritizing this. And
speaking of which, like, for me, we're talking about business and being able to build your business. I think the mental health and like getting your physical health in line should be priority. You got to take care of yourself first so that you can help, the business grow. Because if you're foggy, if you're tired, if you're depressed, or if your testosterone levels are low, which mine were.
Mine are. Yeah. When I did my blood test, mine were low.
All those things can be reversed. And I've been on this mission now probably closer to about 6 months now, where I've just been overhauling my nutrition and getting in the gym, 5-6 days a week. And it's really propelled not only the way I feel about myself, but the way I feel about my practice and where I'm going.
But it shows as well. So when I'm looking to do business with people, I look at what they actually look like, because it shows me subconsciously, does this person have the discipline to take care of themselves? And if they don't, how are they going to take care of my money or this deal or whatever we're doing together?
Like that.
It's like, it's an outer reflection of the inner person.
Right.
And, I'm good friends with Brad Lee, and he taught me that one. Yeah. He's like, he doesn't do business with fat people. He's obviously Brad Lee. He says it a little bit more brash and to the point, but the underlying fact is pretty true. Like, I had one guy approach me on a deal, and he wanted me to invest multiple 7 figures with him. And I looked at him and I'm like, this is a great concept, and I really back it, and I think it'll be very successful, but I can't invest in you.
Mm-hmm. Because you're investing in him, right?
Because this guy was a 350-pound guy, 6'2", big guy, but wide and overweight and obese, having heart time just walking upstairs, sitting down, we were smoking a cigar. It was like,
Yeah.
this guy was struggling. And I'm like, I believe in everything that you're saying, but you've got to take care of yourself because I give you all this money and you drop dead.
Correct.
What's going on with my money? Like, without being selfish, I care about my return, right?
Yeah.
But you got to sort your health out.
So
health
important.
is wealth.
Right. Absolutely.
And then you look at Steve Jobs in his last dying breaths, he's like, he would transfer all of his money to someone for extra life.
Right.
So really, wealth isn't money. Wealth is time, right? It's healthiness.
Yeah. Finding time to get up early. I think another thing that has really helped me is getting up early. And I have this app. You guys, I'm sure they've heard of Philips Hue. It's
the Hue light bulb.
Yeah. So it's like $40, $50. I set it up. There's like a little shelf that blocks my vision when I'm waking up in the morning. It's just tucked in the corner. And there's a wall there. And I bought a Hue light and I set it to go off at 5 a.m. So like at 4:50, it starts really, really soft. And it naturally wakes me up. My cortisol levels go up and I naturally wake up without the beep, beep, with my wife saying, turn that off. You know what I mean? So,
Maria does exactly the same.
Yeah. So I'm able to get up nice and quiet and, get started in my day. 5:30, I'm at the gym, 5:36, work out. I go to the sauna, which really helps. There's a lot of studies that came out of Finland that show 3 days of sauna use, at least 10 minutes at a time, help elongate your life.
Yeah, Joe Rogan talks about this all the time.
It's on his podcast,
and
right?
it's like, it's got to be hot, like a really hot sauna, 180 plus.
Right.
The one in my house goes to 140, so I need to get it.
You won't live as long, but
it's going to go twice as long.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's really good for you to sweat it out. And I love saunas, steams, and all
amazing.
that. That's where I do my meditation. So
get out.
Sit and kill two birds with one stone, right? Put my headset on, I'm meditating, and I'm getting my heat in as well.
Are you thinking about your business while you're doing that at times?
No, I'm trying not to, because when I'm meditating, I just want to have a clear, focused mind. And I'm not very good at meditating because my mind is always thinking.
So hard, yeah.
So one of the ways that I've figured out how to do it more efficiently is just guided meditations. Just got some music in the background. Someone's leading me through my breath work, or whether I'm doing a different type of breath work. Because I don't just do meditation. I do Wim Hof breathing. I do transcendental meditation as well. So there's a lot of different modalities within all of that. So just depending on what my mood is, I don't ever want to just stick to one thing, because I find I'll do it, and then I'll get bored of it. So it's
I find that there's sometimes when I'm in the sauna, I mean, it's 10 minutes. I set my timer and I actually sit down, close my eyes, and imagine what I'm doing that day. Like if I had clinic.
You plan your day out. Okay.
Yeah. I'm like, what am I doing? What are the things that I need to be doing? What am I forgetting to work on? Getting my mind in the right place, because as soon as I go to clinic, whether it's 25 patients or 10 patients, I have to have a game plan to execute, right? So that's a good time for me to sit down and just
reflect.
And I'm shutting my mind down, but I'm in a sense, I'm just focused on one thing at a time, and if it's not business, thinking about the things in my personal life, have I set my date nights with my wife? How's my relationship with my wife? How is my relationship with my kids? Do I need to spend more time with them? Because let me tell you, like when you're married and have kids and you're running around, there's not a whole lot of time for reflection.
Well, I remember we used to play golf all the time.
I haven't seen you for like 3 years. No, yeah, it comes at you quick.
Right?
Yeah. So
I think that's a really good point. I think it's different levels. Every stage of the way is different. It's unique. It's beautiful, whether that's a young single guy in medical school, then you become a married guy, then you have the first kid, then you have the second kid, and then it's like, holy smokes,
what are going on?
And then I've got business, and I've got multiple businesses, and then it just keeps expanding. It's all good problems and it's blessings, right?
Right.
But time allocation is key.
Let me ask you something. For outside the medical world, how do you find time to allocate for your family versus like your friends that maybe your wife isn't close to, but like they're like your boys and you want to hang out with them? How do you do you have a structure where like, all right, once a month, I'm going to have a cigar day with like me and the guys? Like, how do you do that?
Well, that's once a day for me, but
right. Let's be real. Right.
Yeah. The way I do it is I'm really, really fortunate. Maria, my wife, she's super relaxed, right? She doesn't give me a hard time about anything unless she feels that she's not getting enough attention. I can't be giving other people more attention and love than I'm giving her.
Right.
So that's first and foremost. It's like, hey, you've been out every night. So let's just use this week as an example. we're filming this on a Wednesday. So last week I was flying out to Phoenix. I was speaking. So I got back Sunday. She was out at a family event, so she didn't get back till Sunday night. So we hung out Sunday night. Monday was a friend's birthday. So I was out all night.
Your friends or hers?
Yeah, one of my
Your
friends. So we were out smoking cigars and had meal, drinks, all the rest of that. Tuesday afternoon was my other friend's birthday.
Oh, man.
So all afternoon out, smoking cigars, having a good time. And then we had family over from England Tuesday night.
Oh my gosh.
So I finished that early to come back home to be with the family. But then she didn't have any time, right? Because the family's there.
Yeah.
And then today's Wednesday, we're having the day together.
There we go.
So today's our day. Tomorrow we've got dinner with one of my other friends. That's together. She's coming with me. Friday is normally our date night. So we'll always do date night Friday, no matter what. So the balancing act for the way we do it is we have our date night Friday night. She knows my work is just really busy. I don't have enough time during the day that a lot of it spills over on the night, whether that's if I'm golfing during the day or I'm traveling and speaking. She gets it. That's just the nature of my business is there's no off switch.
Right.
Whether that's the tax savings, whether that's the real estate, whether that's other businesses.
Right.
It doesn't ever stop. And like we said, it doesn't get less. It's just the balancing act. And again, we're pregnant right now, so a little bit more sensitive.
Yeah.
And the advice that I've got from people around me is, I've just got to suck it up. She's really hormonal. She's going through, just don't cause the argument, bite the lip.
Yeah, right.
And that's okay. Literally, I had this morning. I was up 6 o'clock this morning. Hey, I got to go. She, well, I haven't seen you all week. I'm like, what do you want me to do?
Yeah.
I got stuff that I need to do and I need to get it done. So I'm not going to put it off. I'm just going to get up early, get it done. So
Fine, allocate
we can have
other
dinner
time.
tonight.
Right.
And I had this conversation with her. It's like, hey, I'm working extra hard now so that when baby comes in July, we can have more time together.
Right.
And just planting those seeds slowly so that she doesn't feel neglected or, but
That's good.
the kind of the difference or the way you phrased it is the people that she doesn't get along with or doesn't like. The guys I smoke cigars with, not that she doesn't like them, she just doesn't like cigars, right?
Yeah.
Not many women do. So she isn't going to come with me to Cigar Lounge and I don't expect her to. So that's kind of my sacred space or my sacred group.
Got it.
But she understands the value and the importance of that for me to reset and be in that environment and recharge, because that's a different type of energy than I get when a family group is going to the beach or whatever, right? Because then you're on family time, it's chill, it's fun, it's loving in a different way.
Right.
But the energy I get from hanging with my boys or going for dinners or whatever it is, whatever the activity,
It's a different vibe, man.
whether we're going paintballing or golfing or whatever it is, it's just different. And it's the balancing act. We talked about adding different products and revenue streams in. It's the same thing, but just on the family side.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how I see it. So
That's very good.
Thankfully, she's close to her family, and I get on really well with my brother-in-law and my cousin-in-laws, and they've kind of taken me in just as one of their own. So I'm really fortunate with my in-laws. And obviously my family's in England, so she doesn't really have to deal with that dynamic.
Right.
Similar to yourself, right? Your family's in Dallas,
and
you're here with your in-laws.
Yeah. So I have family out here too, but I get what you're saying. Yeah.
But a balance and act and moderation is kind of the summary points, not any too much of one thing. So if I was golfing every single day and work wasn't getting done, it'd be like, what the hell's going on?
What about for me, one Friday a month, I try to take time off for myself to either go golfing or I don't know, if I have stuff I need to take care of, I do. Do you do stuff like that to treat yourself? Because I know listeners that are listening in, I'm sure they're wondering if I'm building my business, do I got to just keep going? How important is it to you to take that time off for yourself?
Is really important. I think you mentioned it earlier when you were talking about meditation and reflection and things like that. People need that in different doses. Let's look at Gary Vee as an example. He's just go, 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 and there's no other gear, right? It's just go and not go.
Right.
Most people are not wired like that. You need to reset. You need to recharge, whether that's once a day for 10 minutes, whether that's once a month, whether that's once a year. Bill Gates has a week. He calls it a reading week. He literally blocks out his calendar for a full week and reads books. Goodness knows what else he was doing with Epstein, but he does read books.
Right, yeah.
But he blocks that time out, and that's where he recharges and rethinks and thinks about things. So for you to take one day to yourself a month, I don't think that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But I'm not in your situation, right? I don't know what goes on behind closed doors, but if it was, hey, I'm taking every single Friday off to just hang out with myself or my boys, when you've got a wife, kids, multiple practices, multiple businesses,
Correct.
It might be a little much.
Right.
Unless they're running on autopilot.
Right.
Like my self-storage companies, I don't touch. It's just money coming in, right?
That's a really good thing that you mentioned, because if you learn how to build the structure of the business, you go from, and I know you know what this is, you go from the self-employed to the owner, and then from the owner to the operators, where you're hands off. Like
so Tony summarizes this really well.
Yeah.
Are you working in the business or on the business?
Right.
So most people are working in the business, and that's fine as you build it. But the way I always look at things, and kind of my inner thought is always, how do I remove myself and not miss a beat? I want the money and the revenue to still go up, and the value and the impact and all that good stuff.
That's the hardest part, man.
But that's really where you graduate from being the CEO to being the board of advisors or the chairman of the board.
Right.
And you can step away from the business, and it actually tends to do better without you.
And you shouldn't take that personally, but it's because you're working on the business. You know what's best for it.
More importantly, you're building a team around you that you've empowered, and they'll be better than you in many different ways. Now, obviously, you're not going to replace yourself 100%, but that's not the point here. The point is, if you can get 5 people to do 90% of what you're capable of, you're going to far surpass your ability.
Right.
So that's how I try and build my businesses, but it's department at a time.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just go, oh, well, I don't want to do this business. Let me just hire all these people.
Right.
Doesn't quite work like that. Cash flow is probably not going to be there. It's going to be kinks that needs to be ironed out. But generally, if you've got that principle of, hey, let's use your freeze product as an example. Yeah. How can this product run me a profit every single month without it needing me? Okay, I need 1, to recommend it, 2, to get my colleagues recommend it, 3, do some advertising and marketing, drop ship it from Amazon directly, make life easy so you don't have to do a 3PL warehouse and manage all that stuff. Or you have one of your admins check the inventory levels. Hey, does Amazon warehouse have enough inventory? It takes 30 days to get it from wherever it's manufactured to Amazon, to goods in, to ready to be sold. Knowing what those cycles are. So then it's just a click of a button and pay the invoice, rather than, oh my God, we're down on this product, we're up on that size, this is not selling. You want people to come to you with those reports, similar to what we talked about at the beginning, is, hey, what's my financial report telling me?
Yeah.
Because if you can run your business by reviewing 1 sheet of paper per month, that's a good business.
Yeah. Right.
And you can do that if you build the back end and all the metrics to go well with it. So if we say, I'm happy doing a meeting for 1 hour a month per business. Okay, well, what do you need in that 1 hour meeting to know that that previous month, quarter, year has been successful? Well, I need to know my financial performance. I need to know my cash flow. I need to know my team is happy and good, or my customer service is good, whatever those key metrics are.
Right.
And then you need someone to present that to you. And then if things aren't going as well, give you suggestions. And even if they are going well, give you suggestions. Because if you don't evolve, you die.
Right.
So now you're just being presented to for an hour a month per business. And all you have to do is say yes or no, or give me some additional
advice,
options.
Yeah, well.
So if you've got a good enough team, let's just say your number 2 is the one presenting to you, and you're like, okay, Jim, give me the numbers. Where are we at? Boom, boom, boom. And if Jim knows you well enough, knows how you think, knows what you want to see, and can execute on that, you've just bought back a full month of time.
Right.
Now, how many hours is that?
Yeah, that's worth a lot more. Yeah.
Time is more valuable than money if you can re-engineer time.
Right.
Because now you can go to soccer practice with Luca. You can go hang out at the park. You can take your daughter to art class, right?
Because you know it's operating in the background.
Because you know, hey, I'm going to have this meeting. And it doesn't have to wait a month. Like I get daily checkouts from my team and it's just in Slack. And then I get a text message, hey, this is what's good. This is what's bad. This is what's missing. This is what we did. So I don't have to be glued to my laptop like I used to be to run my businesses. Hey, this email coming in. I used to be infatuated with replying to emails. I don't check my emails now. It's like only at the end of the day, after I've eaten dinner, after I've relaxed, I'll just have a quick glance over them, anything urgent, because I've empowered my team to deal with 90% of things. And then only the top fires come to me. So if I've really got to be a firefighter, I'll firefight.
Yeah.
But that's really where, if you build a structure and a team that you can empower to do the heavy lifting, you can just put the cherry on the top when needed, or blaze the fire out when needed.
Yeah, I use a very similar approach for marketing. My staff gives me a report every Monday morning. And then I take a look at that report and I see the number of referrals I got from certain doctor's offices, law offices, insurances, Google ads. And I'll compare that to last week. And then I'll compare that to last month. And
are they putting it into a nice chart for you in an Excel or something?
Yeah, Excel. Sometimes, well, it's an Excel and a PowerPoint. But I literally look and I can tell which patient or which referral sources are trending up, which ones are trending down. And a lot of these marketing companies, we actually pay for. So I pay thousands of dollars for some marketing companies to go out there and promote my business and bring me money. So if I don't see a return on investment, or if I'm better yet, if I'm not checking my return on investment, how will I know how I'm doing, right? So it's really important to get your metrics. And then this is the only way I like to tell people. It's like, once you have your metrics, you can have that meeting and discuss it with your team and say, hey, I don't need this marketer anymore, or hey, I like this one. Let's go to their office more often and get to know them better. Maybe I should do a golf session with them and get to know the doctor, the referring doctor a little bit better. I think that's really important. I think it's a very underrated it's not really underrated because like everyone thinks of marketing, but I think in private practice, it's critical to the health of the business.
It's relationships, right?
It's relationships.
It really boils down, and that's transferable through all businesses. Like look at my business on tax savings for high net worth individuals. It doesn't come from Google ads or Yelp ads. It's all referrals and word of mouth, because if you trust me and you know me, then you're going to tell your friends, right? And they're going to get a great result and they're going to tell their friends. So one is the relationship that you have with the people around you. Two, you got to do a damn good job, because if you don't, that's going to get out quicker than you're doing a good job.
Right.
Then you've got to ask. If you don't ask, you don't put yourself in the position to build up enough value where you can ask.
It's true.
Then that's the other part of it. You can have the best doctor in the world doing the best procedures, but if he isn't asking for referrals, he isn't going to grow as quickly.
Right.
So there's a combination of things, right?
Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
Awesome. So with that being said, we are coming to an end. So how can people get in contact with you, check out your practice, your social medias, and your products?
I'm Dr. Benji. So DOCTOR_Benji, BENJI. I try to post every day, some fun stuff on the Instagram story. The website's kpfoot.com. I do telemedicine. I travel to different countries. I go all over California. I have clinics in San Francisco, Oakland, Fresno, Bakersfield. And then if you want to just write down myself, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to give myself a number. Yeah, you can definitely message me on Instagram.
Okay, great. We'll put the links right below for everybody watching. So thank you so much, Dr. Benji. Really appreciated your time.
Thank you for having me.